Hey everyone, Brian Elliott with Focused Story Films here, and today I'm super excited to talk about getting really good emotional performances from your actors.
Please. No.
Take a break.
Sir, you need to stop what you are doing.
I said take a break! And don't think I'm finished with you. You come back in here and I will shoot you. Get out! Go! Go!
If you enjoy this content, consider subscribing, hit the like button, and leave a comment below. Let's go ahead and jump in. Tip number 1 starts long before you get on set, and that is casting correctly. This is key, and it will save you in all the other steps. It will make them much easier. Cast somebody who has the acting chops for the role. Cast somebody who is right for the role. I know, especially in the low budget indie community, it's very easy just to cast a friend, cast a family member, or cast any local actor from any theater group or from the small film community without running auditions, just because they're interested in the project. And it's really easy to say, okay, you, because I need somebody for this role. But I highly recommend taking a little bit more time with it, even if you need to put out a little bit of money to pay an actor for a role. It's going to make a huge difference to your film and to how far you can push your film, get it in festivals, get traction online, all of that, if you have actors who can actually act and emote the way that you need them to. In my short film, The Trigger, when I put out my casting call for the role of Tracy, who was one of my characters, I put specifically that she needed to be able to cry because that was a huge part of her character. She was involved in a scene where her sister was dying in front of her, and there was a lot of emotion going on, and so she needed to be able to really bring that. And because I put out that detail, I was able to cast an amazing actress in that role, and it made a world of difference to the final film. Tip number 2 is to make sure that you discuss the scene with the actors before you get on set. Have a conversation, whether it's over coffee or just over the phone, talking about the character, talking about those challenging scenes in particular, as well as just kind of the overarching character, to make sure that you and the actor are really on the same page. I'm a director who likes to give the actors a certain amount of freedom to come up with their own backstory for the character, to come up with all those details and create the character if that's something that they're excited to do. So I just have a conversation around, these are the key moments in the story, whatever you've got to do to kind of get your character there, create that. But some directors like to give a full backstory. Obviously, if a backstory is a part of the script, you want to discuss that, connect the dots, all of that, so that the actor has all the information that they need to be able to prepare to bring the right emotion and the right tone to that scene before they're even on set. Tip number 3 is know your actor's process for getting into character. This is so important because actors have many different methods of getting into character, many different disciplines, many different ways that they connect with their characters and get in the headspace that they need to. Some actors can go in and out of character very easily, some cannot. I know on The Trigger, Betsy, who played Tracy, and Kat, who played Grace, who was the sister who dies in the film, had very different acting methods. Kat was much more easily able to get in and out of character, kind of joke around on set, all that kind of stuff. In the really intense emotional scenes, Betsy really needed to stay in character, stay focused. She had a very different, a little bit more elaborate process to get into character. And so knowing that, we could give her space, let her kind of go off on her own and get into character while we were setting up lighting and all of that important stuff, and then bring her back in. And how I approached talking to and communicating with her was very different, a lot more gentle, as much minimal communication as possible, while still giving her the direction she needed so that she wasn't distracted and brought out of character. And so really knowing how your actors work is so important. I recommend having a conversation with them before they get on set, and also have a conversation with them kind of when they arrive on the day to find out what they need to get into character, and make sure that you are creating a space that will let them work how they work and deliver the best performance for you. Tip number 4 is plan enough time for the shoot. In this particular instance, with the trigger, I allowed 4 hours, which included setting up the lighting, the makeup, and giving the actors plenty of time for their performances to let them get into character. And then we ran the scene between all the angles probably about 20 times, which really gave them time to get into their characters and really emote and create those performances that then in editing I was able to craft into exactly what I wanted for the film. But if we'd rushed it and said, okay, we've got an hour to get this all, I would not have had the time on set to work with the actors and let them do what they did best in order to create such an amazing scene. Tip number 5 should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. A huge part of getting actors to deliver their best performances and make sure that you're taking care of them, make sure that they feel respected, that they feel appreciated. One thing, particularly with really emotional, draining scenes, that I try and do is kind of find out something like maybe what one of the actors' favorite foods are. Betsy really loved strawberry ice cream, so I got a couple of those little, strawberry ice cream cups that I was able to give her on the shoot day, kind of after we were done, and she was able to start, getting out of her character, enjoying some ice cream, and really, one, feeling appreciated, and two, being able to kind of get herself in the right headspace, which is so important. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your actors, that you're not, pushing them into these really intense, vulnerable places and then leaving them kind of hanging, unappreciated, or maybe in a little bit of a rough mental state. Make sure that they're good once they've come out of character, and all of that. That's super important. Tip number 6 is be with your actors. Don't be off in Video Village. Typically, when I'm directing, especially because I do a lot of small budget productions, sometimes I'm manning the camera and sometimes I'm with the DP, but I'm always with the actors, close to the actors, watching their performances, coaching them, giving them direction, letting them know that they're doing a fantastic job. Typically, the way that I'll direct them when it's a really intense scene like this is, I'll be somewhat soft-spoken. I'll make sure to offer a lot of encouraging words. I'm never down on them, even if the performance is not there. I try and find ways to encourage them to kind of tailor that performance in a way that doesn't feel frustrating or, degrading to them in any way, like, man, that sucked, do it better, nothing like that. I try as much as possible to have specific direction and critique if there's something that I want to see that I'm not seeing. And that's really only possible if you're actually there with the actors, kind of in the scene with them as a very hands-on director versus being back in front of a monitor or something like that. Tip number 7 for directing really intense emotional scenes is keep the crew as minimal as possible. Only have the absolutely necessary skeleton crew there for the most intense emotional scenes, so that they aren't there as a distraction, or the actors feel less self-conscious about it and can just really let themselves get into the scene. Obviously, there are scenes that are more complicated where you need more crew. I'm not saying have less crew than you need, but don't have extra crew, don't have anybody standing around who's not doing something vital, and just make sure that it's kind of as small and comfortable for the actors as possible for them to be able to give their best performances. Tip number 8 is modify the scene if necessary. If it just isn't working the way that you had in your head, if the actor is just not able to give you the exact performance you want, think about different ways that you could modify the scene and still get the same end result. A great example is from my short film Resolve. One of the climactic scenes, one of the characters makes a really bad decision that ends up getting several other characters killed, and kind of after that happens in the script, she sinks down and starts sobbing, and we were running the scene and the actors just couldn't get tears. They weren't coming, and we ran it and we ran it and we ran it, and she was starting to get really frustrated. I told her, hey, no big deal, take a break. I kind of talked with my assistant director. We kind of brainstormed a little bit and decided to have her try the scene without the expectation of her crying, just to kind of let her emote however she emoted. She knew what had happened, she understood the scene, she understood her character, and what ended up happening was a really great performance, but it took a much more angry turn. She threw a book. Like, there was just kind of this different level of emotion, and in the end she did kind of have that little breakdown that was in the script, but it became this much more layered, dynamic performance because we modified the scene and kind of let her run with it. And if you're having a scene that's just not working, I highly recommend trying a few takes that way. The worst that happens is those takes don't work either, and then you need to go back to the drawing board and look at what else might work, or give that scene a break, try another scene, and then come back to it. But always be ready to modify or tweak if you need to get that performance that you're looking for. Tip number 9, which I've alluded to already, is make sure that you are encouraging your actors when they're doing a really good job. Make sure to let them know that they're giving you what you want, that it's amazing. Even if you need to do more takes or tweak things, let them know that you're really loving what they're doing, and that will give them the confidence to push even further, to keep going, and to give you even better performances than the really good performances that they're already giving you. This has been a huge part of my technique in helping actors to kind of reach the point that I want. It's that balance of, you did a fantastic job, I love that, with let's push that even further in the next take. And kind of that combination is really effective, especially when coupled with specific direction that really kind of helps the actors out. And that specific direction is going to look different for every actor depending on their acting method and the kind of direction that they respond to. It just really depends on your actor's style, what exact direction that they need, but always make sure that you're encouraging your actors no matter what's going on set, rather that's a really intense emotional scene like we're talking about here, or even just in normal scenes. Make sure that you're encouraging and building up your actors, because that will give them the confidence to push their performances even further. Alright guys, I hope that you found some of these tips helpful. Definitely leave some of your own tips below, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing, hit that like button, and I will see you all in the next video.